In this video, we're going to look at a monetary policy experiment. In particular, we're going to look at the effects of increasing the US short-term interest rate by 1 percentage point. In order to do this, we first note that in the base solution, the rate of interest is treated as an endogenous variable. Therefore, in order to conduct the policy experiment, we first have to make it an exogenous variable. In order to do this, we open up the model object, as shown here, and we look for the equation for the short-term interest rate. This is given in this line here. In order to make that an exogenous variable, we put a quotation mark before the start of the interest rate equation so that eViews will ignore it when it solves the model. We then need to recompile the model to reflect this. So I click on recompile and then yes. Once we've made the short-term interest rate exogenous, we need to set it as the override variable in a scenario. To do that, click on the Scenarios button, choose Scenario 1, then click on Overrides. In the Overrides box, type in the name of the variable we want to override, in this case RS, and click on OK. Next, I need to set some values for the short-term interest rate during the solution period. To do this, I'm going to use a short program. To set this up, I go to File, New, Program. And I'm going to set the values as follows. First of all, I'm going to set some values immediately prior to the solution period to allow for the lags in the model. This simply sets the short-term interest rate in scenario 1 to the values in the base solution. Next, I set the sample to 2014-1 to 2022-4, which is the full sample period, and I can set RS1 equal to RS0 plus 1. And then I'm going to finally set the sample period to what the period I want to use for my actual simulation. So that's 2014-1 to 2021-4. If I run this now, then it will set the values for the solution period. Next, I need to set RS as an override variable for scenario 1. To do that, I go back to the model object here, and I'm going to click on Scenarios and click on Scenario 1. Now, I now click on the Overrides button and type in RS, and this will make sure that it uses the values RS_1 when it solves for scenario 1 rather than the base solution values. Click on OK, and it should now have set RS as an override variable. Next, I'm going to solve the model. To do this, I click on the Solve button here. I make sure that the active scenario is set to scenario 1. Now, experience has told me that this model will not converge with the convergence criterion set as standard by eViews. So to modify this, I'm going to click on the Solver button here and change the convergence criterion from 10 to the power minus 8 to 10 to the power minus 6. And this should be enough to make sure that the model will solve. So click on OK, and the model should now start to solve. Next, we're going to examine the results of the simulation. To do this, I can either use the command line or I can use the built-in eViews features. First of all, to illustrate the use of the command line, I'm going to type in here show GDP_R, which is the base solution for US real GDP, GDPR_1, which is my scenario 1 solution, and then I'm going to look at the percentage difference between the two. So that's 100 multiplied by GDPR_1 divided by GDPR_0 minus 1. If I hit return, then this will bring up a group view. We can see here the values of GDP in the two scenarios and the percentage difference in scenario 1. And looking at this, we see that an increase in short-term interest rates has reduced real GDP in the US, with the peak effect coming in 2015 quarter 3. So that's nearly 2 years into the simulation period here. We can also use the built-in eViews functions to either examine the effects of the simulation in table form or in graphical form. For example, if we want to create a graph, we go to Proc, Make Graph, then we list the variables we want to graph. In this case, we'll look at GDPR, and then we'll look here at the percentage deviation of the active solution from the comparative solution. So click on OK, and that gives us a graph of the percentage effects of a 1% rise in the short-term interest rate. And we see here that the peak effect is coming here in 2015 quarter 3 and in the first quarter of 2016.